Write me up for simple mistakes to get me fired? Prepare to get fired. I told someone this story and they directed me here, TLDR at the bottom. Anyways, private security was my field up until a few years ago. When I say security, I don't mean mall cops, but high-end, arm-trained security. I spent a few years working a job in another city away from home, but the company went under, so I decided to move back home. I found a security job online. It was simple entry-level, basically sitting behind a computer. You were security for the building, but monitored security for other sites the company owned across 3 states, like small repair places, factories, places where they stored vehicles, etc. So I submitted my resume. The next day a guy calls and sets up an interview. Awesome, because I needed to find work fast. Went to the interview, conducted by a woman I'll call Jane. She was the supervisor and the guy the first talked to was her boss. Jane immediately told me I was way overqualified, which I found strange, but okay. Interview went fine and I left. A few hours later she called and said I was hired and set up training days. Now I won't go through that. Just wanted to give background, so let's go to the good parts. She always gave me a cold shoulder. Her boss found out I have all the qualifications, licensing and training to be armed. So he had me come in armed. Nothing fancy. Handgun, 3 magazines and handcuffs. She would always make comments about how everyone should be armed. A few of my co-workers I wouldn't trust with a water gun, and she should decide who is armed. Just little comments to get under my skin. Then one day it happened. I was working the front desk reception that day and she sends me a message over Messenger telling me she needs to see me. I go back. She drags me to a side office with a write-up form. Apparently when I added door access to visitors badge, I added the door to the gym in the basement. A mistake, but not life-threatening. A week later I didn't sign my timesheet. Another for not filling in a form correctly. All minor things everyone has done or did. The end came about 9 months into the job when I looked at the new timesheet. I was paired with a new officer who had been there a month. Only he was listed as shift supervisor. Confused, I took it to her second in command. I'll call Hi, Bob, a great guy. He told me that he brought it up, that I had the experience and seniority to be promoted, and she basically told him to fuck off. It was her choice. Anyways, that got me mad. So I started planning my revenge. I don't normally do this, but I knew one more write-up I would be fired no matter how minor the infraction was. Good thing is during the night shift there is only 2 people and we can't see each other's computers. So I started thinking. I remembered about 4 months prior her car broke down in the parking lot across the street. Instead of having it towed, Jane's father decided to fix it there. No big deal. Only during that time Jane was bringing her husband back into the security office. This was a huge deal. The office took scanning at 3 doors and a keypad to enter. In the whole building only the security staff and 1 cleaning guy had access. It was the HQ for the company and not even the executives had access. From our computers we could open any door, turn off any camera or alarm, and open any gate in any building that the company owned. So it was a big deal because we had the keys to the kingdom. That was a huge fucking violation. So I hatched my plan. Under the excuse of having a smoke, I went out to reception and copied the visitor log from those days. I then went back in and accessed the video feeds. You could go back a year for all video feeds. And took screenshots of her husband entering the doors and office. The office itself had no camera, as well as with timestamps. Him leaving and the fact he never swiped in, which following someone into a door. Even if they hold it open you must scan your card. I logged onto my private email and sent it to another email knowing they don't log what you do on the computers. I got home and sent all the pics, the log copies and everything to not only her boss, but his boss whose job was investigating breaches and theft. I also included every dirty trick she pulled, playing favoritisms, etc. The fallout didn't take long. 2 days later, a Friday, I went in for an afternoon shift and Bob was at Jane's workstation. I looked confused and said Jane was suspended for a week and that Monday I had to come in and speak with her boss and boss's boss, but I would be paid for it. Also, everyone was interviewed. It was great. Rumors were flying. I was laughing on the inside. Okay, interview day. I go in and they started questioning me. They knew I worked while she brought her husband in and asked me. I spilled everything after acting scared and getting assurances it would be confidential and I won't be punished. I didn't tell them I sent it, but they asked everyone. I left out some things in the email and added some things that weren't. I didn't want to be labeled as a snitch. It went on for an hour and I left. Next day an email is waiting. Jane was fired. Bob was in charge until a replacement is added. I had a long talk with Bob that day. Turns out Jane was scared of me because I was more qualified for her job than she was and knew I was her boss's golden boy. She was afraid, rightfully so. It turned out that I might take her job and admitted to him she wanted me gone. A fact he told them in his interview. Also that she didn't want to hire me, but her boss made her. Turns out her boss was aware of things and looking for an excuse to fire her, but it had to be big. Jane had been working at that department for 10 years. It was her first real job and security was all she knew. They blacklisted her, which means unless a company was really desperate she wouldn't get a security job anywhere in the state. Icing on the cake. I know you want to know. Yes, I was offered her job. No, I didn't take it. I told them that Bob deserved it more. He did, and that I would be happy being a shift supervisor. So that's what I stayed for the next 2 years until I left. Thanks for sticking with me. TLDR. Boss was scared of my replacing her. Tried to get me fired for petty infractions. Told her boss about her major infractions. Ah, Bob, the classic sidekick. Why did she take her husband to the office? And what did that have to do with her father repairing the car? I worked in a different field but had a similar boss. I was more qualified for her job and she was sure I was looking to take it from her. She never trusted me despite me telling her numerous times that I planned on moving out of state for graduate school and had no interest in staying long-term with the company. She gave me impossible task after impossible task and wrote me up constantly for not being able to accomplish them. Eventually she managed to get me fired. I thought about going above her head but decided to just move out of state and go to grad school, like I was planning to do all along. Shout out to the wonderful person who gave me gold for this. Good on you for promoting Bob as the replacement. Did you ever let her know it was you? Good read. Good work. Knowing they don't log what you do on the computers. In a building with physical security that high and data that would be fairly sensitive. This is kinda weird to me. NGL. I had a similar situation. I worked in the office of a minor elected county official. Her main qualification was being married to an attorney. I had a lot more actual qualifications for her job, but I didn't want it. When she hired me, she didn't realize just how qualified I was. So she fired me after only a few months. First thing I did was go to the local paper and place an ad, which was the start of my own business. I had met a lot of people in the few months on that job, which was really helpful in launching the business, too. Pro right facing fist, left facing fist. Spelling edit, right up should be right up or right up in a couple of places. You're an MVP, my dude. Good on ya. I always find these more enjoyable when op doesn't get fired before shit goes downhill and works there happily after revenge has been served. My favorite part of all this is that you helped out Bob there. Like, this was an incredible loan. And some really good things came out of it. I am curious, when someone is blacklisted is a reason, proof given to the other companies. As there are people that have been his people in power were petty. Jane really is a petty person that she couldn't grow up. What's the update with Jane? Are you still acquainted with Bob? Quick question. After you got hired to that company, you can gain access to some certain areas in that place, right? So use that to your advantage for your revenge? Would there have been any consequences if they would have learned you were the one to send the information?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.